Hello, my fellow Ripplers. This is Chris Miles, your cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor.
Chris Miles was able to retire twice by the time he was 39 years old. But he's not content to just enjoy his own financial freedom and peace of mind. Chris wants you to have your own ripple effect so you can live free today. He's not the financial advisor you expected. He's the anti-financial advisor you deserve. He's jumping behind the mic right now, ready to make waves. Here's Chris Miles.
Welcome to our show that's for you, those that work so hard for your money, and you're now ready for your money. Start working harder for you today. You want that freedom and cash flow now. You don't want to have to wait 30 or 40 or longer years from now, but you want it today so that you can live that life that you love with those that you love. But guys, I know it's not just about getting rich, because it's about living a rich life. As you are blessed financially, you have a greater capacity to create a ripple effect and bless the lives of others. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for sharing, because without you, I couldn't create this ripple effect in others' lives, and including yours as well. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing. And guys, if you're ready to take that next level, you want to know how you can create enough passive income so that you can become work optional, be sure to visit our website, moneyripples.com, reach out to us and see how we can help you do that today. Okay, guys, so I wanted to bring up, actually, it's a concept I taught many years ago. In fact, it was probably so long ago, none of you guys will ever find this episode, or not very easily, because it was probably one of my first 10 episodes. And now we're almost 800, right? So this is like 9 years ago. We're now in season 10. Season 1, I did this, and it was really for the benefit of my own clients. But I want to teach it to you because I know that over the many years that I've done this, like with hundreds and hundreds of clients, there have been real common threads of success. Things that if you do X, Y, Z, or even UVW, X, Y, Z, whatever, if you do these 5 things, you are ensured success no matter what you do. It doesn't even mean with working with us. You know, if you're consulting with us and things like that, it doesn't even just apply here. It can apply anywhere. It's something that I've seen work for myself. When I've worked with other people, whether they're trying to help me out in consulting or coaching or masterminds, it even works even if you're just simply living life. Okay. This is something that really does guarantee success and abundance in your life. And so I want to go into this acronym that I created many years ago called SPEAR. SPEAR, like, stab with a spear, that kind of thing. SPEAR. SPEAR. This is what I've used actually for success. In fact, I want all my clients, again, to watch this, because this is a concept I've even forgot to remind them of in recent years. So number 1, what's the S? Is success-minded. And by the way, I'm kind of building this in order. These are like the foundations and then building on to the strategies with it. So success-minded. I've already done some episodes here recently. We've talked about abundance and optimism and things like that. Because I will tell you, anytime we've had clients that they are constantly doubting whether they'll get results, if they always doubt, then they will always get the very thing that they focus on, right? They will continue to find a way to not get results, subconsciously or consciously. So subconsciously, what I've noticed that the ones that actually constantly get results and they just feel like it's magic. In fact, to other people, it looks magical, but it's really not. It's just because they expect success. They expect good things to happen to them. So success-minded, it means that those people are usually willing to take action, willing to do things, they're willing to put faith forward to make it work. They're willing to be coachable. They're not willing to just, I don't mind if people question what we do and say, hey, well, why should I do this? And help me explain, help me learn more. That's great. It's when someone takes it too far and they say, yeah, I don't buy it. Like, really? That work? Like, tell me how this is going to work, because in my mind, this doesn't work. Well, if you have that kind of perspective, you'll find a way to make it not work, right? So when we've coached people, even though it's very formulaic, it's like, hey, you've got X amount of dollars. You'd say you have $200,000, you make 10%. That's $20,000 a year. Pretty easy to do, especially if you find investments that are already aligned with that. Some pay more, some might pay a little less, right? But it's not too hard to do that. But magically, it's almost like people have to question it and say, well, really? And then they do nothing, and then they get no results. That's why we pride ourselves on 100% success rate in our program, because if you at least do what we ask you to do, and we try to screen people out to make sure that if they don't have that kind of mindset, there's no help that we can give them that's going to help them out. They're going to sabotage their own results. So we try to screen those people out in the beginning so that we know that they seem open, they seem like they're have integrity, they're honest with themselves and with others, and they're actually going to get results. The truth is, most people in the world don't do this. Most people in the world are not success minded. Most people in the world usually just doubt that they can get anywhere. You've seen this in inner city, right? Like people that are in inner city poverty, many times it's not because they can't pull themselves up out of that poverty, but they'll use that as an excuse why they can't create something, why they can't achieve something. And so as they constantly keep letting that story be real, remember, your mind never wants to be wrong. Your mind always wants to be right. So if you keep pumping information or doubts into your mind to say, oh, this will never work, it will never work until you're willing to flip that script, right? You're willing to flip that belief and believe, or even be willing to put faith in something different. Faith without works is dead, but you got to have faith to go with your works. In fact, if you don't have faith, you most likely won't work for it. You won't get the results. So success minded is everything. So that's S in the SPEAR acronym. P, power hour. We talked about Tony Robbins' hour of power. We've talked about this in other episodes too. Your morning ritual routines. Find a way to focus on those 3 E's, which is enlightenment, education, and exercise. Doesn't have to necessarily be in that order, right? But those 3 things, exercise, education, and enlightenment. See, I just mixed it up on you just for fun. Do those 3 things within each morning routine, and it can even be spread throughout the morning. And you can even do some of those things at the same time. Like, for example, as I'm driving to the gym, often I will put in Audible, right? I will listen to audiobooks. I will listen to some podcasts and things like that. I will do that on the way to the gym. And if I run out of time or I don't do it, I can always do it while I'm at the gym. I can listen to my earpods and get that information. You can even do some things like just simple meditation exercises. Just even if you just do breathing exercises for, I'd say, a minute, 2 minutes, just to relax and breathe. It's amazing what happens. Now, why would I even have you do this in the first place? 1, it helps with that success mindedness. But 2, it puts you in a better, more relaxed state. Your mind is on, you're turned on, and you're ready to get real. Like, it's really where the rubber hits the road. I compare it to, like, it's better than a cup of coffee, right? Like, some people are like, I can't get going in the morning till I have my cup of coffee. The truth is that you're just going to get addicted, and it's not even going to help you with your health, right? You're just going to keep doing what most normal people do, which is they wake up, they might or might not eat breakfast, they take that morning cup of coffee, they rush off to work, and then they're all drowsy. They're not really mentally awake yet. And by the time they finally wake up about 10 or 11 o'clock, oh, it's time for lunch. And so they go to lunch, and then they come back, and then they got a few more hours in the afternoon. But by then, they may or may not be dragging. And so you only have this few hours of good productivity when you could just get going right from the get-go. I'll tell you, during my worst times when I was in the hole, struggling financially, like over $1 million in debt, right? During that last recession, I had no money. And I had, in many cases, what felt like no hope. But the one thing I could do is create a win each morning. I could at least do that. Heck, even if there was a snowstorm, you're like, oh, I can't go out for a walk. Shovel the snow, call that your exercise, and you're good, right? Which is true. It's pretty bad exercise. But those kind of things, you can do that first thing in the morning. Create a win, do something. The cool thing is I realized, I said, you know what, in this moment right now, I'm not broke. I don't, even the creditors aren't calling that early in the morning, right? No problem. I'm good. Now, I'll tell you, a lot of people will tend to give me excuses at this point. They'll put so much energy towards excuses rather than just doing it. In fact, they put as much energy into that as they do their excuses. They don't even have excuses. But, for example, sometimes I'll have somebody say, hey, I'm a busy mom. Like, my kids wake up really early. I have no time to myself. Well, great. What are you doing in the morning? Like, what kind of chores are you doing? While you're cooking breakfast, could you also be doing something else? Could you be doing some of these things? Maybe you can't get exercise. Maybe you can exercise just quickly. I've done 6-minute calisthenic exercises just to wake my body up and say, I'm good, right? Just enough, right? Just to get that little extra boost. Drinking 2 cups of water first thing when you wake up in the morning, amazing. By the way, they've proven that actually has the same effect as if you had a cup of coffee. So doing that kind of thing to help get your body going, moving, just do anything. Doing something is better than making excuses and doing nothing. Just try something, and you'll find that you cannot live without this. So I'm telling you, if you just do these first 2 things in the SPEAR acronym, S&P, success minded, and power hour, which helps reinforce your success mindedness, those 2 things alone will make a difference in your life. You will start to enter this top echelon and the top, really, like, percentage of successful people in your life. Now, let's keep going, because it's not over yet. Now we start getting to things that are a little bit more tangible and doable, right? Power Hour, of course, is. But even moving to E, which is engage. Engage is essential. And what I mean by this is that you engage in conversations. So like with our clients, they not only just come in and they're not just engaging with the coach, which is important, asking questions, being involved that way, but then they also engage in our community because we have this online community that they can actually ask each other questions and comment and do those sort of things. Even if you serve and teach and offer an opinion, still that reinforces the things that you've been learning. I'll tell you, for me, the fastest way I learned these kind of things is because I turned around and taught it to somebody else. I remember the very first time this happened. It was actually with my friend, and also it was my CPA at the time. And I was, and in fact, my wife at that time, she said, "Listen, Chris, I invited the Andersons over for dinner. You should go talk to them. Like we should teach them some of these principles you've been learning." I was so nervous because I had no clue what they were. I didn't have them memorized. I was like writing a list and trying to memorize it for them. And honestly, I didn't memorize it. I had to like read from it and then try to expound on it. I can guarantee you it was not as eloquent as what I'm teaching today. It was definitely not, but it was enough that they thought was so intriguing. It created better conversations. And as a result, it got better. And so I was engaging, I was having these kind of conversations, and that deepened my understanding to the point where I taught more people. And eventually that's what I've been doing. Really, now it's been 18 years later since I did that, that I'm now doing it to this day. In fact, every time I have a conversation with you guys here. I know it's a one-way conversation because you can't talk back at me, at least not that I can hear. Maybe you yell at me all the time. I don't know. But for me, this is like a conversation that I'm having with you. That kind of thing is only just deepen my understanding, helping me learn, become better at what I do. So engage in these kind of things. Even with my clients, I tell them, come to events. Like come. We not only just do like some Zoom masterminds, but then we also do like an actual live mastermind. I can attest, for anybody that's shown up to these things, they walk away a different person, because when you're there face to face, right? Like physically in person, it's different than just doing Zoom. Zoom can help a little bit, but when you're off the virtual world and you're face to face and you can have these more in-depth conversations, even one-on-one conversations, not just with like me or with Craig, but even with the people that are our own colleagues, right? Our own peers, the people that are also on this journey like you are, it can create perspectives that will shift everything. I've had clients show up that really they were in so much fear, they had a hard time taking action. But then they showed up to an event like that, they talked to other people, and they walk away, they say, "You know what? I'm doing my first investment." And then they do. And what happens? They make money. It's a miracle, right? It's a Christmas miracle. It's true. It's like it's not magic. This is formulaic. It works. So that's what I mean by engaging. Like, so one, if you're success minded, you're open, you're coachable, you're willing to do the things that actually work, you're willing to actually try out in faith. On top of that, doing the power hour, that morning routine each day, to really get yourself in the best place possible that you can create the most value, which in turn gives you the most money. And then three, you start really engaging in the community. That leads to four, which is action. Taking action, hands down, it just has to be that way. You cannot philosophize your way to wealth. I'm telling you, I've met so many philosophers in my life that they could talk a good game about this stuff, but at the end of the day, they can't put it to practice. I would much rather have somebody who could put this to practice and not know all the philosophies and get results. Because if you put into practice, you'll deepen those philosophies much better than the philosophers. You'll go from from what's more like a philosopher to someone who has real tangible experience, someone who has wisdom. Wisdom is more important than knowledge because you know how to apply it. So action is a must. And I'll tell you that action reinforces the learning. It reinforces the confidence and the faith to do it again and again and again. Many times, if we have clients that have fear, we would just say, "Hey, well, try a little bit. Try dabbling in this investment, right? Just try it." Now, we don't give investment recommendations, but we'll say, try something. If you have a couple $100,000, try 50 and just try it out. And when you start to take those first steps, it gets easier to take the next step, and then the next step, and the next step. You can look at that massive mountain up above and you say, "Oh my goodness, that thing is huge. I'll never get to the top." But the only way you can just do it is to take that first step, and then take the next step, and then the next step. Action is essential, especially when you take the right action aligned with the right principles. So we had S, success minded, P for power hour, E for engage, A for action. Now, R is relationships. This goes hand in hand with engagement. Relationships are everything. How many times have you heard people say that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with? We hear that all the time. Now, there are ways to create relationships that go deeper. I recommend having those relationships. Now, I talk about engaging, right? You could engage with those very relationships. It could actually create that sort of ability to get better. Again, when I was starting to learn this stuff, I was starting to engage other people, starting to take these to my relationships and teach them. Now, the great thing is some of these people became my very first clients, right? So these friends also became clients, family members as well, because I was trying to develop those relationships. And here's why. My self-interest, it wasn't just about okay, it was about helping them too, because I was excited about what I was learning. But more importantly, I knew that the people, if I'm surrounded by certain people, them elevating their lives only helps me more. Right. Because again, like I talked about the being the average of the five people, whether Jim Rohn was correct or not, there's some validity to this, I believe. If you want the people that are already in relationships to level up, why not help them level up? Right. That's what I was doing. I was teaching them so that they would level up their lives because I know as they level up, I level up with them. We all, a rising tide brings up all boats, or however you say that phrase, right? That rising tide. So I was trying to bring everybody up with me, elevate them with me. Even when I was doing ballroom dancing, because I would teach people what I was learning instead of holding back and being scarce about it. The crazy thing is, the more I taught people, the more I learned. And so have those relationships. Now, it might mean that some of these relationships will have to be cut off, right? Anytime that you're trying to elevate your life, some people will be on board with it, some people won't. And you have to be okay with that. Some people literally refuse to grow in their life because they're afraid of losing those relationships, not realizing that you never truly lose it. Now, there might be a period where you feel like you're alone, but I'm telling you, when you do that, when you elevate, other better relationships show up. You have to elevate yourself first, which is what the first four letters do. Then you start to help with the relationships around you and make sure that you're aligned with people that actually support this kind of thinking. Again, you don't have to have this echo chamber where everybody thinks the same. You can have people that challenge you. That's good. But if you want to truly allow yourself to prosper and grow and create more wealth, your relationships also have to prosper and grow. This is also why with our clients, we even give them new relationships. We give them different CPAs to meet with, attorneys, and people like that. And as they progress along, sometimes they might have to change out one attorney to go to the next one that takes it to the next level. Maybe it's a different accountant because there's different specialties. That's good. Different investments can also progress and grow too over time. As those relationships get better, you can get better too. And as you get better, your relationships also get better. They work together in harmony that way. This right here, guys, you no matter what I teach you from an investment standpoint, if you cannot master these five things, it won't matter. Like the investments will be good potentially, but at the end of the day, it's very possible that maybe you won't be making money. Maybe you won't even be able to prosper to the full level that you could. Maybe you won't even have the full level of happiness and fulfillment that you really want for you, not just for you, but for your family too. This is so important because this affects every aspect of your life, and the people that you hold most dear in your life, they're also affected. So remember, SPEAR, success minded, daily power hour, engage, take action, and then build your relationships. That is the real area of success. You do those things, watch your life elevate. I'll give you an example of one of my clients who did this. I've shared this before, but remember I mentioned this guy lived in Manhattan, making $60,000 a year, but he at least had the success mindedness, right? He was very optimistic, very open to new things. Now he was kind of behind the eight ball. He only had roughly about $50,000 with all of his accounts, not even one. He didn't have enough money to invest really, but he was willing to engage. He was willing to work. He was willing to communicate and grow. And what happened? 3 years later, he went from making 60,000 a year, not having any money, to making over 300,000 a year and having more money. And I pointed out to him, I said, you understand that because you did these things, these very things I just taught, your income elevated. And now you have more money than the people that started out with more money than you. Some people that might have had hundreds of thousands of dollars that were merely just trying to make money with their money, which isn't a bad thing. But when they were just playing at that level, they couldn't even compete with him because now he had more profit, more money coming in to invest, and he far surpassed them in his wealth. This is why these five things are essential. And again, I've told you, out of hundreds of clients, I have seen this been consistent time after time after time. And if you're already my client right now, this is something you got to re-listen to 2, 3, 4 times just to ingrain this in you. Because I know there's times that scarcity steps in and you struggle. I'm here to promise you this. You follow this formula, the SPEAR formula, success minded, power hour every day. Engage, be involved in these events and things like that. Take action and relationships. Make sure you're building those relationships. And I've even had people refer their friends so that they can elevate their people around them by making them more wealth too, by having us help them. That is how you prosper in your life in more areas than just money, but in all areas of prosperity and abundance and beauty that can happen for you. So I make that your challenge today. If you want to go and make it a wonderful, prosperous week, like I always talk about in this show, go and engage SPEAR into your life today. Now, we don't give investment recommendations, but we'll say try something. If you have a couple $100,000, try 50 and just try it out. And when you start to take those first steps, it gets easier to take the next step and then the next step and the next step. But the only way you can just do it is to take that first step and then take the next step and then the next step. Action is essential, especially when you take the right action aligned with the right principles.